What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. You saw the last video. We built a Rogue Fab tube bender, and I finally went and got some tubes. So we got to build some stuff for the truck today. I've always liked the look of a lower tool drive with a roof rack, and even like those generic ones, they look good, but I'm not doing that, obviously. I want to build one. That's why we got some tube. We're gonna build like some sort of rack with some lights on it and like a little fairing on the front. I think it'll look really good. So like I said in the previous video, I'm very new to tube bending, and I probably got one of the more complicated bends right out of the gate. That's gonna be going across the roof. Now, obviously the roof isn't flat, so we're gonna try to kind of follow that curve of the windshield. I'm not really sure how to do it. I assume you'd probably just load up the bender with a tube, bend it like, I don't know, maybe 5 degrees at a time, move it, bend it, move it, bend it to get like a long gradual bend. I'm not sure. I'm gonna try it. We're gonna see what happens. Hopefully don't mess up this tube because it's not very cheap. Anyway, let's load up the bender. I think the first thing I'm gonna do is run a straight line on one side of the tube. Kind of here, I'll just run a line down the top of the tube. I'll kind of use that line as a reference point so our bend doesn't end up kind of walking one way or the other. It's a nice straight bend. So let's do that. I already got it cleaned up, just wiped it down with some acetone. So let's get our line, get our reference line in, get this thing kind of measured out, mocked up. Obviously we got to do a 90. So I'm going to basically come from the back, do a 90 on the front corner here, come across that whole front, do another 90, and then go back, and then I'll do a separate cross tube on the back, and because I got a kind of a cool idea for the back. So that's kind of the game plan. So let's measure it out. Let's see what we can do. Now I know there are much better, more accurate ways to do this, but like I said, I am new to tube work and I am just learning as I go. I get a lot of questions on the channel how I learn to do all the stuff that I know how to do on these trucks. You know, I just dive in and I just do it, along with a little Googling and YouTube research. You know, that goes a long way, just trying to figure it out on your own. Those same rules apply here with tube. Like I said, I've done a little bit in the past, but not much. I am very, very new to this. So you guys are going to see me struggle. You're going to see me mess up, I'm sure. But every time you mess up, you learn a valuable lesson on what not to do. And honestly, those lessons on what not to do are a lot more powerful, and they stay with you a lot longer than if you were to never fail. All right, I think I'm getting this figured out, how to do this bend. So this line right here, these inner lines, you can see I got one right there and one right there. From between there and there is basically between the end of this radius here and on that side as well. For the bends, I'm going to do 90 here, so that is the in between. And then if you come over here and look, we are using a 4.5 inch die. Offset is 5 1/4, so I got to mark 5 1/4 out. That is where you place the die. So I think you put it this way with the die on the inside of that mark. So the beginning of our bend is going to start right here. Now to figure out how much bend to do and how many times we need to bend to get that radius along the windshield there, Rogue Fab has this handy calculator right here. We got a few things we plugged in here. 42.5 is the cord length. The height is, you know, if you had a straight line across here, it'd be the height is there. That's 3 inches on mine. So we got radius. A total radius is 76.8. You come down, plug that in here. Oh, that's 76.8. We got a 4.5 inch die. And you can kind of mess around with the number of bends, but down here it shows you the degree in each bend is 2.267 degrees, and you want to clamp to clamp location. So when you move your tube, you want to move it 3 inches. Now you can see the target you want to set is between 2 and 3. So if you want to mess around with that, you just come up here, number of bends, go down to 12. You can see we have 3.5. So I'm going to shoot for 14 bends. That puts me right at 3 inches. So that's what we're gonna do. We're going to move this 3 inches every time. So we'll clamp that there. We'll do a 2.2 degree bend, and then we'll move it 3 inches and measure it real quick, move it, and we'll do that until we get all the way down to that mark there. And if all went well, we should have the radius of that windshield bent. Well, as you guys can see, we completely failed. So I completely did not realize that there was like a minimum thickness for a wall. Like I said, I'm completely new to this. I actually found a chart on Rogue Fab's website that has the minimum and maximum wall thickness for each die. And it says the minimum wall thickness for 1.5 tube and 4.5 die is a 0.105. And I measured my wall thickness. This is 0.06, like 0.63. So it's way too thin. It's about half of the minimum. And that is why this thing just freaking kinked. But I figured you could still get a 90 out of it. I mean, I don't know. I guess it is what it is. I screwed up. I need to go to town and spend more money. So I wasted, I don't know how much this thing was. But oh well, it is what it is. Like I said, now I know. I learned the hard way. Now I know to check that chart before going and buying material for a certain job. All right guys, we went back to town and I picked up this 120 wall. This is a hot rolled electric weld. But anyway, we are gonna get to cutting and bending this stuff up. So I'm gonna go through and remeasure everything on the truck just because we did screw up the first tube, and I want to leave like I said, the last about 5 to 6 inches of this bend. I want it to be straight. You can see here I'm marking the center of my tube that I cut. Now I'm gonna come from that center line out and we're gonna plug all this back in. We got a 29.25 cord length with a depth of 3 inches. That gives us a radius of 37.1. So we'll bump that in down here at 37.1 effective rolled radius. 4.5 inch die. We're gonna shoot for 14 bends just like before, but these bends are gonna be about 4.5 degrees and we are gonna clamp every 3 inches. So that should work. This 120 wall should bend a lot better and a lot smoother than that thin wall. That was I think 16th, it was 0.65 I believe. So I want to give you guys a little perspective on kind of my point of view with doing these videos. I know looking from the outside in, it looks like these videos go together easy, everything goes as planned. And well, as you guys can tell, I've made multiple mistakes on this one tube. This is day 3, believe it or not, trying to build this thing. You guys saw the first day we screwed up the first tube. The day after that, I tried to go get more tube. I was there like 10 minutes after the yard closed, so I wasn't able to get tube then. This morning, I went and got this tube, and I spent 4 or 5 hours on this thing so far. I screwed up and I overbent it just because of my calculations in that little calculator. So I overbent it. I was getting a little frustrated, so I didn't film anything, but I overbent it. I had to kind of straighten it back out, and it's still not perfect, but I think it's gonna work. I am happy with it for the first time around, trying to do this kind of a complicated bend really on this tube. So I'm happy with it. Obviously, you can tell I'm still learning, trying to figure this stuff out. Like I said in the beginning of this video, this is kind of how I go about learning something new. I just figure it out and I make mistakes, I fix the mistakes, and move along from there. Well, I said I wanted this roof rack kind of out there and different. I think we accomplished it. So once we get the lights on, the next video, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get the lights on, get some paint on it. But I think once this thing is all finished up, I think it'll actually look really good. Now, when I first started building it with that one tube that we bent around the front, I wasn't really totally in love with it. But now that we have the shroud on right there on the front, and then that bar on the back, honestly, I think it looks really good on here. It's kind of going with the truck. Now, I haven't decided what we're doing for paint. I'm kind of leaning towards doing what we did on the front bumper with kind of making it rust, and then we'll do the white. I'm kind of going between that and just painting it black. I don't know. I think black would look good, but I think also matched with the rest of the truck would look good as well. Go drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think. What should we paint this thing? So like I said, next video, we got to go through, give it the paint job. We got to get our lights in, got to wire our lights in. And I think once we're done, this thing is going to look really sweet. Well, that's a wrap for this one, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Why don't you go smash that thumbs up button, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.